Hi fiddlers, I'm Reynolds, here with Session 6 of version 3A of the Free-Fiddle-Workshop. It's October 11th, 2014 here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Here are the two exercises that will be performed during this session. I'm just grabbing the bow using the workshop grip. And the first exercise, we're going to just lower the bow onto the strings using the weight of the arm, and then practice moving the bow across the strings without making a sound. The second exercise, we're going to use this part of the bow, the end part of the bow, and we're going to do what's called a partial long bow. The partial long bow can be used, this section of the bow can be used almost entirely in most hoedowns, and we're only going to use 4 inches of the bow. And for this, I'm going to hold my upper arm steady, and I'll even bring my little prop here. I'm going to hold the upper arm steady. This is a prop for the arm position for the E string. And I'm only going to use about 4 inches of bow. And I'm not moving the upper arm. Down bow, up bow. Now I need to lift the arm from A string. At the end of each note, the bow is solid on the strings. D, G. I'm going to demonstrate both of those from the side. In order to be most effective, I'm going to line the camera up with, we want the bow to contact between the end of the fingerboard and the bridge, and we want the bow movement to be right along this perpendicular plane. Here is the exercise 1, getting the bow on the E string, up to the A, up to the D, up to the G, and back. This is how to change strings without making a sound during a song. Here's the partial long bow along this perpendicular plane, E string, just the forearm moves, A string, D, G. I'm following a document that I wrote. Instructions on how to get this document are included in the text below. The purpose of Session 6, the primary purpose, I'm going to show 2 practice methods in this. One practice method, how to get the feeling in your arm of keeping your upper arm steady, and we're going to place the upper arm against the doorjamb so it can't move, forcing the forearm to do all of the work. Practice method number 2, how to get the bow to move along the perpendicular plane. We'll stand sideways to a mirror, we'll place the mirror, stand sideways so we can look directly at that perpendicular plane and make sure that we maintain contact on that perpendicular plane. Chin rest comments. This workshop teaches to have the small chin rest on the right hand side, not the left hand side. For purposes of this exercise, fiddlers, if you don't already have a chin rest there, go ahead and put your chin on the non-chin rest side just for purposes of this workshop. Do not do that for an extended period of time. Version 1 even taught to not have a chin rest, but after 6 months, my seam needed regluing and I affected the varnish. See Session 1 for more comments. The workshop grip, we're going to do the exercises, just placing the frog of the bow flat against the palm and closing. Keep your hand off the horsehair. We're now to the partial long bow fundamentals. The most important fundamental in this workshop is that the bow always digs into the string. By digging a bow into a string, I maintain power and control. When I'm done with the stroke, the bow stays on that string. So the bow will always dig into the string. On the down bow, what digs the string in is the weight of the arm. On up bow, it's the direction of the force. I'm actually contracting the forearm towards me. The resistance of the bow against the string forces the bow, is what causes the hand to move towards the fiddle. But here again, when I'm done, the bow is solid on the strings. The bow always digs into the strings from the resistance on down bow and up bow. I'm on the top of page 4. The forearm is used for power to move the bow across the strings. The upper arm is used only for altitude change. So as long as we stay on the same string, the upper arm should not move. Direction of up bow forearm force. I talk about this in session 5. Whenever you contract the elbow, whenever you just bend the elbow is just two-dimensional. So, whenever you bend the elbow, the wrist always goes towards the shoulder, this way. Well, the fiddle's that way. But by pulling towards yourself, and what I like to even say is pull towards the right ear, because here's the wrist, shoulder, here's the right ear, it's right on the same plane. By pulling the bow in this way, the bow digs into the strings and the hand ends up moving towards the fiddle. So always pull towards yourself on up bow. Page 5 goes over the stance. Get to the 0-point stance for these exercises. With feet together, heels together, nice and comfortable. Left arm, swing the left arm in, rotate the forearm backwards. Just make a nice little comfortable hook. Put your fiddle in there and place the back right portion on the shoulder. Just rest it there. This is the fiddle position. When you're playing, you want to maintain this fiddle position. Don't be swinging it back and forth, or you'll need to adjust your arm also. Fiddlers, the first order of business in session 6 is to determine the arm position and angle for each of the 4 strings. We want to see how we have to move our arm to get to each of the 4 strings. Remember, the upper arm position and the forearm angle have to be exact for this method to use. We want to just use our forearm for power. This vertical line here, this line of yarn, matches up with the perpendicular plane of the fiddle. So I've lined the camera up with this line, and I'm just going to grab the bow using the workshop grip. And this microphone stand here is my elbow position for the E string. So I'm gonna put the bow on the E string, and notice that the angle of the bow matches the angle of the upper arm. And my elbow's probably a little bit behind me here. So my elbow's on the microphone stand. I put the bow, just lower the bow on the E string, let the weight of the arm hold the bow. I'm going to expand my arm 4 inches. Now I'm going to pull back towards me the 4 inches. That's the E string. Go to the A string, watch what happens to the elbow. The elbow moves up a little bit, the forearm angles up a little bit. To the D string, my wrist is going to turn back a little bit more. This is always with power. On the up bow, pull back towards yourself. The resistance of the string causes the bow to move towards the fiddle. G string. I'm on page 7 of the document, and here is a summary of the 4 arm positions for the 4 strings, and I've printed out just a piece of paper here with just the arm positions. So from the side view, here's what I'm saying. E is like this, A is like this, D is like this, G is like this. A couple things to notice here. Notice how close the E and the A are not too far apart. From the A to the D is a bigger change, is the biggest change of all, when you kind of go over the hump to that string on the other side. The vertical angle of attack, as the wrist goes up, the angle of the bow also changes. So if you look from the other side, when I'm on the E string, here's the angle that the bow attacks up to the A. Now when I make my arm more vertical, the bow bends to the other side and bends significantly to the other side on the G string. So those are the 4 vertical angles of attack on page 8. Page 9, the stopgap E position. I've always found the E string the toughest string to control, and what I recommend to fiddlers is get that E string position down solidly. The arm is about 45 degrees out. If you look from the side, the elbow's a little bit back behind that. So if you're playing a hoedown, your arm should never go below, in the partial hoedown region, your arm should never go below this angle. Next session, on the full-on bow, sometimes the upper arm will go below that, but for purposes of the hoedown, purposes for the full-on, the partial on bow, don't let your arm drop below this. I think of that as a stopgap. I'm on to page 10, exercise 1, no notes, altitude only. So using these 4 arm positions, This is exercise 1. Just grab the bow using the workshop grip. Lower the bow onto the strings. Here's arm position 1. Wrist should be bent I'm going to bend the wrist down slightly. Go up to the A, increase the angle, move the elbow forward a little bit. To the D, here's the biggest change. I'm going to actually bend the wrist backwards a little bit. Raise the arm up more, and up to the G. Back to the D, back to the A, back to the E. Here's a sideways view to maintain this perpendicular plane. Here's my E string with my wrist bent down a little bit. Up to the A, move the elbow forward a little bit, increase the angle. Up to the D, up to the G, and at this time my wrist is bent backwards. D, A, E. That's exercise 1. Now I'm going to switch to 2 clips showing practice method 1 using the Doorjamb, and then practice method 2 using a mirror. Fiddlers, the second order of business in session 6 is to figure out how the arm is supposed to feel. I'm just on the down bow and up bow. I'm just grabbing the bow using the workshop grip, and I'm going to put my arm for the E string. I'm going to get it located approximately to the E string. Just lower the bow onto the string. Bow is solid on the string using the weight of the arm. Now I'm going to back into the Doorjamb. And what that does is now my upper arm can't move. Now the only body part I can move with the bow is the forearm. This will teach you what it feels like to expand and contract just the forearm without using the upper arm. I'm going to go to the A string. Now the arm moves forward for the A string, so to keep with the resistance of the Doorjamb, I'm going to rotate in a little bit. So now I've rotated in because my arm's up a little higher. But now I do the A string. My upper arm's jammed against the door, so I can't move it. Remember, on up bow, pull toward yourself. The resistance of the bow against the strings makes the bow always dig in. You should always be able to stop. To the D string, my arm moves forward a little more. I have to rotate in a little more. My upper arm's jammed against the door. To the G string, rotate in a little more. Upper arm's jammed against the door. Fiddlers, the third order of business in session 6 is to make sure that we're on the perpendicular plane as much as possible. I've angled the camera into the mirror so you can see the perpendicular plane as much as possible, but it's more important to just see how this works. I'm looking in the mirror, I'm just grabbing the bow, lowering the bow onto the E string in the arm position that we need, and by looking in the mirror I can really tell if I'm on the perpendicular plane. The previous version said to estimate, but I found that estimating doesn't do much good. It's better to have a mirror, and I can tell exactly if this bow is on the string, or not. There's the E string. Go up to the A. I can keep it as perpendicular and in the proper contact point as possible. Here's the D. Angle the bow up a little bit, always with power, and the G. That's using the mirror to establish the perpendicular plane, and I highly recommend to use this mirror during practice for songs too. And finally, fiddlers, on page 13, the partial long bow without a mirror or a Doorjamb. Just grab the bow using the workshop grip, lower the bow down onto the strings, 4 inches out, pull toward yourself back, up to the A. Sideways view. Drop the elbow back. This is the biggest change. I'm Reynolds. It's a pleasure serving your fiddle educational needs. See you fiddlers in session 7. Wrap with you later.